छुट्टी मिल जाती है.
I mean, sorry, ma'am.
Please come in. Please sit down.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon to you. So, Ravindra, you are an IPS officer.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you training where?
I am on leave currently.
That's okay, but you must be training somewhere. You
I
haven't joined?
No, I haven't joined the training.
Oh, you are very optimistic about the IAS, so you don't want to join, is it?
No, ma'am. I would be joining in the next batch. Like that would be starting by December.
Oh, it will be later on.
This is a system, ma'am.
Oh, they go later
They
on.
don't let them join. They can take leave.
Can take leave
It's
and.
privilege to them.
But do they pay you during this leave?
No.
They don't. Without pay. That's okay. It's up to them. So you are another IIT person?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we've been talking about lot about nuclear war, cyber, warfare. Tell me about nuclear war. Is it going on or is it going to happen?
So nuclear weapons were primarily developed after the Second World War,
Right.
and there was a nuclear arm race. And in my opinion, nuclear arm race has prevented the Third World War from happening because of the deterrence, the mad doctrine associated with
The
it.
deterrent.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. So do you think Putin Saab will cause some nuclear activity or he won't?
In my opinion, he won't be calling that much and he's constantly warning the Western allies to obey the red line and red alerts that have been laid by the Putin administration.
So he just wants to threaten people that I can do it, but I won't.
Yes.
Something like that. Okay. So we've been also talking about vaccine diplomacy of India. What is this new diplomacy?
So during this COVID wave that engulfed entire world, so a lot of demand of vaccine was there, and most of the Western nations had filled up their coffers with vaccine, while other developing nations were not having the vaccine supply. So India provided vaccine free of cost to many countries, and also supplied it under the COVAX agreement to other nations who needed it.
Okay. Do you think many of our people are covered by now? What
Yes.
percentage of our people are covered by vaccine?
Doubly vaccinated around 86-87%.
So that's a very good figure. Whereas the US, I read about 50 some percentage, they are still getting COVID.
Yes, ma'am.
Because they are not covered, they don't listen. So now school children about 12 to 18, that type, they are being vaccinated. Below 12 also, I think one round they've been given, and second maybe.
The emergency authorization had started for various vaccines.
Yeah.
Like recently, Corvax and Covaxin were allowed.
Vaccine, right. So now maybe they'll get another after some months, and then maybe they'll feel better. But it's quite horrifying. They give them the kit. School gives a kit to every child, and the child is supposed to do his own test at home with that kit, and then report the result to the teacher.
Oh.
They're doing every week. I've got children there. They do every week. वो खुद ही कर लेते हैं. They're quite good. And then they send it to the teachers, and teacher says, okay, you're fine, you can come to school. Otherwise, don't come for 1 week.
Yes, ma'am.
You get it? How they are trying to now face it. But we've already done it. So you are quite well off.
Yes, ma'am.
At least we are. So you tell me that there is a statement about carbon neutrality before 2070. So is it possibility? Can we do it?
Yes, ma'am. With right planning and the proper implementation of our policies, I think we can do it.
We can manage.
Yes.
So we'll have less pollution, more fresh air, perhaps.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what you think? Okay. So tell me about these electric cars. So what I know of, I only read the paper. So they say one car got, not a car actually, it was a
Two-wheeler.
two-wheeler. It got burnt up. Then one in Pune and one in Andhra. That's what I read. Maybe more, I don't. So how can we stop all this burning and loss?
So there was primarily a manufacturing defect with the batteries that is being witnessed, and the investigation are still going on. But the probable reasons might be the short circuiting that is happening, and
Because of the heat or because the inbuilt battery problem?
Inbuilt battery problem.
Okay.
The external heat won't be affecting that much because coolants are provided, and then because of the zeal to capture the market, many players had not conducted the rigorous testing that was required, and they release the product in the market so that they can acquire a greater share. And then learnings from the previous lithium ion battery blast can also be there, where it was witnessed that because of some physical damage to batteries also, the
Hap-
short circuiting may be
So,
happening.
do you think we are assembling our own product in India, or we are importing from some country, either China or some other, which does these, parts very well? What do you think we are doing?
As far as batteries are concerned, I think mostly we are importing from
Import.
China.
That might be one problem also, meaning some defective part,
Yes, ma'am.
isn't it? Right, sir, please.
Mr. Ravindra Kumar Gupta. Okay. We were discussing about the electric car only. So we'll go ahead with that itself. Now tell me, if I have to popularize the electric car in India, what are the measures I should take?
So firstly, we need to provide the infrastructure for charging so that customers do not face any problem while they are traveling. Then we need to provide electric vehicles at a lower cost, because cost matters a lot for people in India.
How do I reduce the cost?
So government can provide the subsidy in the initial phases, and then after the economies of scale kicks in, the cost may automatically come down. So then we need to focus more on domestic content in various parts of the electric vehicle. That would also be really bad. And again, from the customer point of view, sometimes customers are very choosy about the design and mileage. So that variety should also be available in electric vehicles that is presently available in IC engines.
What should be done to reduce the cost of the battery? Two things I find. One is the battery cost, which is a large percentage of the total car value. Second is the fact that it's taking time to charge. We have one, it takes around 6 hours for full charge.
One solution for this could be the battery swapping that is happening in many areas, so that the already charged batteries are placed at fixed spots and that can be exchanged. And then we need to focus more on in setting up battery industry in India. Schemes like PLI can be utilized in this, and government is giving thrust on this also.
Okay, you have been allotted the Indian Police Service. Have you found out what sort of service it will be?
So I had to go for joining and take leave. Then so
No,
because of
that's
that,
not. Question is, have you found about what sort of service it is? Is it worth joining or not?
so definitely it is one of the prestigious job of the country, and many of aspirants aspire to become IPS. It is a first
Anything
preference.
unique about the service which will not be in any other service? Some high point, some unique point.
So the the first task of a state is to provide security to the citizen. That is the basic principle of the social contract that is signed between the state and citizen. So police has a primary role of upholding that, because if people are not safe, then any other development activity cannot happen. So I think that's why police have a very important role in playing in ensuring development of the nation.
Okay. Perhaps you couldn't get the question properly. Listen, you see, very recently, one new act has been made relating to identification. And what are the new things which have been included in that act?
Sir, one thing is the act has been enlarged to include the accused persons also, not just convicted. Secondly,
Earlier, the accused person was there or not there?
no sir, only convicted persons.
Only convicted person. No accused person at all earlier.
Yes sir, as far as I remember.
No, there is some flaw there. Some accused must have been there in some circumstances. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So you said now accused is also there. So we have one convicted, one is accused. Any other category has been added further?
So any other person who is related to the case may also be, his measurements can also be taken.
So that throws the net very wide. I can catch any person on the road and say that I require your prints here. Come. So whether that scenario is there or there is some limitation there.
Sir, safeguards are also provided that the person whose measurements are to be taken cannot be forced unless the crime is a heinous crime or carrying a sentence of more than 7 years. And the Article 20 is also there so that self-incrimination can be prevented. So some
Suppose I am forcing someone and the fellow is not obeying. I said, whatever you force, I am not going to give myself to. Then what happens?
But then CRPC sections can be invoked, like 188, where disobedience to and creating obstacles in the duty of a public servant, that section can be.
Okay. Are you keeping in touch with what is happening around India, say Nepal or Sri Lanka or Myanmar?
Yes, sir.
In Nepal, what is latest going on?
Sir, even Nepal is
Yesterday's news or day before yesterday's news?
even Nepal is witnessing a lot of forest shortage and fuel shortage and food shortage. So because of that, it is in distress, and a situation similar to Sri
How
Lanka.
they are going to tie it up?
So India has to play a role in that, because India is the leader of the region, and if the region is not stabilized, then it would be affecting India also in a larger.
How Nepal is going to tie it up? How Nepal is going to tackle it? That's the question.
So non-essential imports have to be restricted, and
Is your suggestion to them, or they have already come out with that?
I read it somewhere that they are planning to do this.
What
So-
else they are planning to do?
And so the critical requirements like fuel and food, that has to be imported, and then covering the people who are like ensuring that food security is also ensured. So importing of food from India and other nations is also in the plan.
Oh, thank you.
As an IPS officer, let us take that, or otherwise also. What is your take on the encounters? Do you believe that encounters are effective? They are result oriented, they are deterrent? What is your view?
Sir, encounters are mostly not pre-planned. They happens because of the peculiar conditions that happen there. So enough safeguards have been placed in the law so that any encounters is not happening without genuine reason.
But then why is there is so much of use of the word fake encounters? So there must be some fake encounters as well.
Yes, sir.
So what do you think on that?
Sir, most of the encounters are investigated by a team of NHRC, Human Rights Commission, and if it is required, a judicial commission also investigates.
No, but that is after it is done.
Yes, sir. So
What do you think, that they are justified? Will they help control crime? Or does it prove a deterrent? What do you think?
sir, I don't think encounter should be used as a deterrent, because killing people would be violation of principle of separation of power. The job of the police is to nab the accused and then present him in the court of law. The court would be deciding if the person is guilty or not. So we should not be resorting to hasty process of justice, because that would be against the principle of justice.
All right. Are you aware with the term UGC?
Yes, sir.
What is it?
University Grants Commission.
Who is the chairman?
Mr. Mamidala, sir.
Beg your pardon?
Mr. Jagdish Mamidala, sir.
Who is, how much do you know about CBSE? What is it?
Central Board of Secondary Education is a board which through which various schools are affiliated to, and it provides the curriculum and the teaching pattern that has to be followed in various schools.
All right. In India, do you think jail reforms are necessary? Or
Jail-
the jail reforms, prison reform are necessary, or the status quo should be maintained? You are satisfied with the arrangement?
So reforms are needed in jail, because
In what way? Are the prisoners' condition bad, or the living conditions are bad? Poor ventilation, poor human rights, etc. Why I'm telling you is this, that we come across news that there is a lot of smuggling of contraband goods, narcotics inside that. They are smuggled in. There is no control about the visitors meeting the prisoners inside. They are in very unhealthy conditions they are living. So you think drastic reforms are necessary?
yes, sir, the reforms have been lagging in this sector, because we think that whichever person is there in jail is because of some reason and he deserves that condition. So that is
Why
the
do you
mentality.
think all these years no reform has been undertaken? Why so?
So because of the mindset that whoever person is in jail, he's an accused, he's a convicted person. That is a common perception among the people. whereas more than 67% are the under trials. So most of them are innocent people only.
No, but what I'm saying is the persons responsible for oversight of good conditions in the prison, why have not they initiated any move to improve the condition? What do you think?
So one can be shortage of funds because shortage of funds, sir.
So why funds can be allocated, budget can be reallocated, and fund is available?
Sir, fund is mostly diverted for more other areas where impact can be seen more by the society, like
So that means it did not get the
attention.
priority it should get to
Yes.
do that.
Secondly, sir, because people who are interested with the reforms like judicial officials and high court judges, mostly they do not find the time and the energy to devolve much time in this area also. So there needs to be a distribution of responsibilities so that more people who are who can give much more of their time in this regard can be brought in the.
Have you heard of Panch Tantra?
Yes, sir.
What is it, Panch Tantra?
Panchtantra is a fable, sir, where fables are storytelling fables, where various moral studies and moral sciences are taught to children via various stories of animal kingdom.
Have you read?
No, sir.
Thank you very much.
Ravinder, you are from Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh has set a target of 1 trillion economy, US dollar economy by 27. That means from 5 years from now. So, looking at the present level of state GDP, do you think it will be able to achieve the target, or you would like to add something from your side?
So we can use the method of 72, where the growth rate required to double, so that can be obtained by dividing that number by 72. That would be giving us a fair idea of how much growth per year we will be requiring to achieve 1 trillion by 27. After that, sir, we need to strategize over the 5 years what we need to do. So identifying the priority sectors, like 50% of our GDP of Uttar Pradesh is from services sectors. So we need to improve that. And then agriculture is also there. So focusing on food processing industries via ODOP scheme.
Yeah.
So that would be there. And
What is the product of that for your Gonda district for ODOP?
pulses.
Pulse. Good. Okay. Now, please continue.
Yes. Then manufacturing, so already government has initiated various state labor reforms and has invited various companies. So various companies, because of China +1 policy, are now establishing factory in UP. We have seen in Agra also leather factory has been established, and PLI scheme is also promoted by the government. So all the three sectors, if focused, then we can definitely achieve 1 trillion target.
Okay, good. Now, in the beginning of this month, IPCC's report was there. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. So they came out with one recommendation that if we don't reduce GHG emission by certain percentage by 2030, then that our goal of 1.5 degrees Celsius above the pre-industrial time will not be able to achieve, and there can be serious problems, environmental climatic problems. So do you think India is in a position to reach that level of reduce GHG emission by 2030? It is not net zero. They have given some percentage.
As we see various climate performance indexes, India have been in the top 10, which means that India has been performing very well to reduce its carbon emissions. And already there is a conscious effort from the top leadership of our country so that the emissions can be controlled, and focus on renewable energy has been there. And various mitigation and adaptation measures have also been taken up. So I think we are working in the right direction, and other nations also need to step up by more aggressively indicating in their INDCs and performing up to that.
Okay. So any particular government of India scheme which is aligned with the SDG goal on energy sector, which is energy free and this reliable and safe green energy for all?
So the emphasis on solar energy, like National Solar Mission based, that mission is there. Then various schemes related to solar energy like solar parks, solar mitras, so that rooftop scheme, PM Kusam.
For energy for all, which is the main scheme?
Energy for our Saubhagya scheme.
Good. Okay, have you heard of this power exchange? What is this power exchange? How do we have power exchange in India?
Yes, sir. So they function like the energy exchanges where various people who need to buy energy and people who are
How many
buying-
power exchanges are there? Functional power exchanges at the moment, right?
So sorry, sir, I am not aware of
Okay,
this.
no problem. So tell me, which is the agency which is responsible for regulating agricultural and processed food products?
I think APEDA is responsible.
Good. My last question, Ravindra, you are an IPS officer. Of course, you are not joined the training. Tell me, how do you see the role of NGOs and civil society in policing? Particularly, which sectors of policing you can make use of NGOs and civil society?
As we see, the police is going to a transition phase where it is more going to become citizen oriented. So the trust deficit between the police and state can be lowered by involving NGOs, so involving them in community policing, and then using the networks that have been established by NGOs, so that police can also encash on that and develop confidence building measures with the society. So in that way, however, sir, a few months ago, our NSA had pointed out that civil society may be becoming the fourth front of war. So that also has to be considered, and there need to be a light regulation on them also for that.
Thank you. Sir.
Thank you. So, Ravinder, you're from Uttar Pradesh and UP has had assembly elections 2 months ago. And a study has shown that as many as 50% members of the assembly, they have criminal records. Now, Supreme Court has been talking about decriminalization. But I'm asking you, if you had the powers to change the law, what law would you bring in order to see that no person with criminal record enters any assembly?
So one could be the reforms given by EC, where a person who is convicted of heinous crime or who is accused of heinous crime and charge sheet have been filed against him 6 months prior to the elections, he need to be debarred from the election. So that one can be considered. Secondly, sir, various judgments have said that political parties need to point out the reason why they are giving tickets to a person. So if reasons can be indicated more properly, not just winnability of that candidate, I think more reform, more transparency can come. And then intra-party democracy is also required, sir, so that various people of clean backgrounds can rise up in the hierarchy of leadership in the party, and the state incentives and subsidies that are given to parties should be subjected to this only, that if they are following these intra-party democracy reforms and if they are giving a ticket to clean candidates or not. So these are some of the measures.
Good. You are an electrical engineer also. Now, my statement is that India is passing through a massive energy crisis. So, can you elaborate if you agree with me?
Yes. Sir, recently few instances of coal shortages has been witnessed in various power plants, because of which there is a threat of grid instability throughout the country. So because of that, energy crisis has been happening. However, proactive measures have been taken by the government, where state governments have been asked to import the coal, and then various railway wagons have been asked to ensure that there is no problem in the logistics and supply of coal to the power plants. And one good solution was given, where if a state wants to buy coal from another state, so instead of buying coal and then producing it in its own state, it can directly buy the electricity, because that coal can be converted into electricity in the parent state, and then that would be solving the problem of transporting coal from one place to another for power generation. That can also be implemented.
So, this crisis that you mentioned is of within the country. Has Ukraine war also created a sort of crisis for energy in India?
Because of the war, the prices of the petroleum and various products have been shot up, and that has affected various other products also, like fertilizers and related things. So because of this, our GDP is also going to be affected. However, sir, India is trying to have a agreement with Russia so that it can buy some oil at a discounted rate.
Ravinder, by an amendment in Constitution, 33% reservation of women were made in Panchayati Raj. Now, it's been almost 20-30 years. What do you think, from your experience in Gonda and UP, has this amendment made, number one, on the overall functioning of the Panchayati Raj, and number two, empowerment of women?
So functioning of Panchayati Raj has been affected to a great extent that it has some positive outcomes. Various women, when involved in taking leadership positions, are having much more good leadership qualities, and they have come up various good models of development in their respective gram panchayats that has been emulated by other gram panchayat also. So there has been a healthy competition. And then so on the women empowerment front, although we hear about the stories of Sarpanch Pati and related aspects, however, we have seen that women who have been involved in Panchayati Raj elections and winning it, so their decision making ability has increased. So they are much more confident now, and even now, and then after that, for the even family matters, they are having a greater say. So that has led to empowerment of women, and various role models have also come up. So other women are also now aspiring to fight for Panchayati elections and then for the higher leadership also.
Ravindra, my last question, you are in the IPS. Now, Lucknow has a commissioner police and Gonda has a SP. So why these different nomenclatures? In the IAS you have DM, everywhere you have DM. So why this commissioner police is different and SP is different? Are they different roles, or what exactly do you know about it?
Yes, sir, because of the unification of chain of command, sir, so that greater law and order can be ensured in the cities which are much more susceptible to law and order condition. Some magisterial powers have been transferred from the DM to the commissioner so that he can take actions more swiftly. Like some powers, powers like the licensing system and the some other powers also I am not able to recollect right now. So powers were transferred so that the faster decision making can take place.
Good. Thank you, ma'am.
Right.